So welcome to another weekly Forex forecast. It was quite an interesting week last week with a lot of higher time frame trading opportunities. We will have a look into some of them, and we start now on the DXY on the weekly time frame. We see that the price is still within this neutral territory here, and we were expecting for price to remain here, accumulate more volume before we see the next clear direction, either a change or a continuation going down to the 4-hour time frame. At the moment, my overall bias is still more leaning towards US dollar long plays. However, as long as we are within this area here, I'm neutral, and I would not be surprised if the dollar would come back one more time, testing this area here once more before then moving up and breaking out, and that would lead to kind of a bigger bull flag continuation pattern. So we move on to Euro US dollar. On the weekly time frame, more or less the inverse picture. We know in terms of positioning, it's also in territory where it could go either way, but the overall price action does still look more bearish. Going down to the 4-hour time frame, we had a trade here. We discussed this trade here last week already, and that's actually a trade I took. I closed it on Friday here for a 1.25%. Let me shortly clean this stuff out here to have a better picture, a clear picture here. So as it stands right now, what I did not like is price here is kind of more in corrective price action. So we had no proper impulsive move after this initial smaller structure here, and I would not be surprised if we get a bigger structure. Also with the positioning of the DXY we saw before, there's a potential for the DXY to go back one more time, which would then actually lead for US dollar to maybe close the gap here to this smaller inflection point we had here on the low to the left, which would then create a bigger structure. It's not uncommon to see bigger price action structures in the higher time frame positioning where we are right now. So if we go back here to the daily, we see we have other levels here below, and it is not unreasonable for price to remain a bit longer in this area, accumulate more volume before we see the next drop to the downside. Pound US dollar looks a little bit different. The positioning is very similar going down to the 4-hour. We also discussed the option for this trade here on the 4-hour time frame. At the end, I decided to go for the Euro US dollar trade and did not want to be exposed more on a US dollar pair, especially not with the news event last week. However, we see the difference here. Price remained a bit longer here on top of the structure, and then we have here an impulsive move to the downside. So we have one impulsive leg, whereas Euro US dollar was more corrective price action, right? So in this regard, I'm leaning more to a bearish momentum play, a continuation as it is right now, and I don't think it's necessary for price to create a bigger structure here for this momentum run, even if it's only just to finish the structure here, a low in the structure, and even if we then get another short-term or medium-term long play into a more complex, bigger structure similar to Euro US dollar. But right now, going down to the day to the 1-hour time frame, if we get, sorry, here make it a bit bigger, we are positioned really just on top of this low. Actually, this is the more relevant. And if I get a clear bear flag continuation structure early Monday, I'm more than happy to take a short play into the next low, the next structure low, actually this structure low here. So US dollar, Canadian dollar on the weekly time frame. We were looking at this pair for quite some time. We were also looking if price might reverse in this area, and initially it looked a bit like that. We stalled here for like 3 weeks all in all, and we had this structure we had a bigger structure into this high here, but as we can see, price did not break back in. Instead, it's really confirmed outside, and right now I'm looking for a long continuation into these highs here, going down to the 1 hour time frame. We do have a bit of messy price action in this area here, but we can also see actually it's better visible on the 4 hour time frame. We had some selling pressure here. We can see all these long wicks here. Even when they ended bullish, there was some selling pressure, but it failed to continue here and it failed to sell off. Instead of it broke out to the upside, and it looks like we can we get another continuation, and I'm looking right now for a clear bull flag continuation structure, and I would then happily enter along into the next high. US dollar Swiss francs on the weekly time frame, we see we had a very bullish week last week, which basically engulfed the last previous 2 weeks, and we are now in again, it's not the cleanest price action we see here, but overall with the bias and the unexpected bigger rate cut last week from the SNB was initially expected to cut rates by 0.25%. Instead it went for 0.5%, so that could lead to a weaker Swiss francs in the near future. So in that regard, I'm more leaning to a US dollar Swiss francs long, and I like to see very clean price action. So we do have a high to worry, this high here to the left. But if we get a bigger volume accumulation here in this area, and we get the base here with the first touch and a proper third touch, I'm happy to take along here. I would make sure to get to break even when we reach this area here, but considering if we accumulate more volume here, it's very unlikely for price to stop on this high. It's more likely for price to just move higher up. Euro Australian dollar on the weekly time frame, we see we are in a bullish momentum run. We had a doji week last week, so it's kind of undecided, but it's still within, it's a bit in no man's land right now, right? So we have a gap here to this bigger, higher time frame area of interest, and I'm looking for price to finish at least the move here into this higher time frame area of interest to close the gap, going down to the 1 hour time frame. Again, we had multiple opportunities, multiple chances to sell off. We had first here, price started to stall, failed to sell off. We had a structure here, which actually a proper 1, 2, 3. Then instead of a reversal, we get a continuation and are now in a kind of a bigger, more complex structure. However, looking at this next high here, let me clean that up. I'm looking for price to finish this last leg at least, or then go higher, and this would be a lower time frame play for early Monday morning. So this is probably more an Asian session trade. If we are lucky, it's creating a proper bull flag continuation into early London session. That would be perfect. So if price starts to consolidate a bit over Asia session and we get an entry here early London, that would be perfect. Euro yen on the weekly time frame, we were looking for shorts, right? So we were looking for continuation shorts on more or less all the yen pairs, but again, with this unexpected news last week, I'm now kind of changing my bias, but it shows I have to be more aggressive with managing these yen pairs. So there's 2 yen pairs this week on closer watch, and we can see here it looks more like a bullish reversal. And would it make sense in the higher picture, in the bigger picture? Yeah, we actually discussed this liquidity point here. It's better visible on the 4 hour time frame, that price actually never retested this area here, and this was the consolidation for the last very bearish move here. And since then we are just starting to or since then we actually just created a bigger, more complex structure. Price here turned around more or less in no man's land, so we did not close the gap here. However, it would make sense for price to move up one more time, close the gap here, and then we would reassess the situation when we reach this area here. And for now, I would be more inclined for a long on this pair. However, I need very, very clear price action. We had here quite a big volume accumulation, and it would be okay to have a smaller continuation pattern here on the 1 hour time frame with the proper 1, 2, 3 structure. I would happily take a long play here. Canadian dollar, Swiss francs on the weekly time frame. We have a bullish reversal candle here, and we tapped into this area. So we actually discussed that as well 2 weeks back, that we are within this range here. And initially we were looking for long continuation, then shorts here when price broke out here, but we always had this liquidity point here in mind. And we now, going to the 4 hour, price actually had some very nice structures the last 2 weeks here. Very clean price action into the lower bound of this range, and is now turning around. So at the moment I'm looking more for a continuation long, again mainly because of the SNB decision last week, and I'm expecting a slightly weaker Swiss francs over the coming weeks or months, hopefully. And therefore, I'm looking on the 1 hour time frame for a long entry. This as a base, retesting this area here would make sense, and then a proper continuation structure with the 1, 2, 3, retesting this area. That would be a perfect entry for a long play. Canadian dollar, yen on the weekly first. This is a stronger bullish momentum as we saw in Euro Japanese yen, but it would make sense, very, very similar situation. We have a gap here, a higher time frame gap to another liquidity area higher up. We have here quite a lot of potential reversal areas. We have here a liquidity area for a long, we have a liquidity area here for a short. We still have this gap which did not retest anything. It's kind of a V shape and a very proper liquidity area here. So it would make sense for price to at least reach this area, and then I would reassess, because we see here already on the 4 hour time frame we had multiple chances which for sell-off. We had this structure here with a structure into a structure area here, and price failed to reverse, actually initially it looked like it would reverse here in this area, but it failed to connect here. We did not get any continuation pattern on the lower time frame. Instead, it took a while, a bit more volume accumulation. It is now just through that high here. We see that on the 1 hour time frame a bit better, that price is really just starting to consolidate through this previous small high, and that's what I'm looking for right now. I'm looking for price to create proper base, preferably a 3-touch bull flag continuation, and I would then enter along to at least this higher liquidity point here. But again, if we can accumulate so much volume here, I would not be surprised if price would just move up a bit higher. Then pound Australian dollar on the weekly time frame. We had this wick fill on the radar for quite some time. We finally filled the wick actually. We washed out potential orders up here and finished the week bearish. We see that on the 4 hour time frame we have a proper structure into this wick fill. We have a very nice 1, 2, 3 structure into this higher wick, and then very nice reversal patterns here. And we can also see price reacted impulsive. So we have a nice impulsive first move, a small consolidation, and now we are on the second move. So it's not, the short is not 100% confirmed. However, we are already trading below this previous high here to the left, but we have quite a strong liquidity area here. So there's kind of two options. I'd like to play this pair if I get on the lower time frame a clear a clear second top here, like a structure with the base and a second top here, I'm okay to enter a short in this area and manage it aggressively to this low. However, if price is just starting to break below this low and starting to form some form of bear flag continuation below this low, I'm more than happy to take the short in this area. This would actually be almost the preferred option, because at this point the short is more confirmed, is higher probability to play out instead of against the area up here. Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar on the weekly. Let's start on the weekly as well. We see we are a bit in no man's land right now. It did not really turn around from every very significant higher time frame. However, it looks like we are gaining some bullish momentum. We see that also on the daily time frame. It's a bit undecided towards the end of the week. However, in terms of positioning here as well, we had multiple options to sell off. So we had a clear washout here, we had a nice impulsive move, then we had here kind of a running channel. Price then started to form like a descending wedge, broke up to the upside. We had no connection below, no continuation, and now we gained some momentum to the upside and starting now to consolidate longer just on the start of this running channel to the left. So initially I was looking for a short continuation here in this area. We did not get that. Instead, price almost made a new high, and it looks really as if we could bank on a long continuation. And on the 1 hour time frame, this could actually be a 4 hour play. As you saw, the structure is very well visible on the 4 hour time frame, but I'd like to see at least a proper 1 to 3 structure. So this would be section 1 kind of, right? They are too close together, so there is not a second bottom. So this would be considered as 1, 2, 3. That would be ideal and would be in proportion on the higher time frame for a long continuation. And if we get such a deliberate structure in this area, the chances to play out are quite good. So yeah, it's a bit a different watch list this week. These are the pairs I'm looking more closely next week. So thanks for watching. See you next week. Bye bye.